Hello everyone, JR here from HolyFaith Media. I wanted to come on today and talk about why I'm no longer a traditional Catholic. What do I mean by that? I don't use the description traditional Catholic anymore when somebody asks me about my faith. I used to use that term traditional Catholic. I no longer say that. I just say Catholic. There's a few different reasons I say that. The first thing is that there is no difference between a Catholic and a traditional Catholic. Somebody that is a Catholic, by its very nature of the faith, is a traditional Catholic and keeps the traditions. You see, the media would have you believe, and some of the leftists in the church, the so-called liberal Catholics, would have you believe that there's a liberal Catholicism, there's a centrist Catholicism, there's a conservative Catholicism, and there's a traditional Catholicism. And we can all exist, and we can all get along, and everybody's happy, etc. But that just is not true. To be a Catholic means that, now there's obviously things that we can disagree on. Married priests, for example, is one of them. I think it's a very imprudent thing to open up the debate on whether we should have married priests as a whole in the Roman Rite, of course. But married priests is something that legitimately could be open to debate. But most people aren't interested in debating those issues. They're interested in debating the actual dogmas of the church. When the people that use the so-called terms liberal Catholic, they're talking about dogmas of the church. They want to change not only disciplines, but also dogmas. But also there's another reason. I read a post recently where Father Richard Heilman, who is a priest at St. Mary of Pine Bluff Catholic Church in Madison, Wisconsin, I read a post attacking him by a so-called traditionalist Catholic because of the fact that he says a Novus Ordo Mass, which is extremely reverent. I broadcast it on my channel generally most weeks. And now I understand some people say, well, we should get rid of the Novus Ordo altogether. And I would actually be in favor of that opinion. However, to say that Father Heilman is a fake traditionalist, basically that's what this post was saying. Because he does have a traditional Latin Mass at his parish, but also saying that because of the fact that he says a reverent, or tries to make the Novus Ordo Mass as reverent as possible. He says it ad orientem. He uses a lot of times the traditional vestments. He has a number of altar boys. There's no altar girls in his Mass, in his Novus Ordo Mass. And he keeps many of the traditions intact that unfortunately were discarded at the Second Vatican Council. And he has tried to make it, he's working within the system, so to speak. He's trying to make the Novus Ordo Mass at least as close as to the vision that the conservative bishops had when Pope Paul VI instituted the reform in 1970. He's doing the best that he can within the system. Now, the easy thing for him to do would be to say, well, no, I'm just not going to say it, or to run off and join the Fraternity of St. Peter, or the Society of St. Pius X, or something to that effect. But he's at least trying, and that's where I really have a problem with people attacking a good priest, one of the few good priests out there who are trying to restore a sense of the sacred. I mean, there are so many bad masses out there in the Novus Ordo Mass throughout North America that it makes you sick sometimes when you walk into these parishes and you see the Mass that's occurring. It has no resemblance whatsoever to divine Catholic worship. And then you see a traditionalist attacking somebody like Father Heilman. It's just very sad. And I have to say that, I've been going to the traditional Latin Mass for probably, 8 years now, generally, for the most part. And I must say that about 30%, maybe it's even a little higher, of traditionalists are extremely negative on everything no matter what they see modernism somehow. Even when you get a priest like Father Heilman, who is trying to do his very best with what he has been given to work with, and they just find some reason to attack him. Sometimes I think they're much, much harder on priests like Father Heilman than they are on the full-out liberal priests. And I think it's a very sad state of affairs. And I must say that I've met people in different parishes and from a wide variety of perspectives. And I must say that people, at least a good amount of people in traditional parishes, are very, very negative, and they see nothing good. And looking on the internet, if you go onto YouTube, any video that talks about modernism or problems in the church, or have criticism of Pope Francis, they get thousands and thousands, sometimes even millions of views. But if you put out a video of something positive about the faith, and this is across a number of channels, it gets very little interaction. It's like people want to dwell on the negative things. And I understand that sometimes when you see something with a catchy title, and you can't help but want to watch it because you want to see the information that's in it. I understand that. But there's an overemphasis amongst these traditional-minded Catholics on the negative and the bad in the church, and I'm just so fed up with it. It's very detrimental to the faith, in my opinion. I think that there's a major problem. I know that Father Chad Ripperger, back a few months ago, or maybe it was closer to a year ago now, somebody put out his video where he's talking about some of these spiritual problems amongst traditionalists. And I have to say that much of what he said was right. I know a lot of the people that attacked him over that, and it was like, how dare he say something like that? But a lot of it is true, and I think that we really need to examine our consciences, and we need to look inward and say, is my spiritual life just simply me bitching, moaning, and complaining about what's going on in the church, or am I actually doing something productive and doing something about it? There are many disturbing things that we see from Rome and the Vatican with the Amazon Synod, but we can't dwell on it all the time. Some priests, that's all you hear from them is negative sermons. And I have to say that some of the priests at the Society of St. Pius X, and I have a very limited experience. I'm going off of just a couple of chapels. But I have to say that at least they, generally, the ones that I've met, they're not always talking about modern errors. They're actually talking about how to build up your spiritual life. And I think that we need a mix of it. We need some of both. We definitely can't turn a blind eye to things happening in the church and in the world, but we can't just always be dwelling and stressing the things that are wrong in the church. I mean, it's tiring. It brings if you're somebody that is inquiring about the traditional Latin Mass, and you come into a parish where that vibe is just radiating from the people in this parish, what are you going to think of these people? I know what I think, and I'm kind of used to the culture. So if it has a negative effect on me, imagine what it has, or imagine what it does to somebody who is just experiencing tradition for the first time. I hope my rant makes sense to you, and I hope you understand that where I'm coming from. I'm not abandoning the traditions of the church, and I'm not about to become one of these happy clappy liberals who wants women altar servers and is hoping for female deaconesses. But I'm just saying that people, we need to change our ways for the most part. I'm not talking to every single one of you, but there's a large portion of people that it's just negative all the time, and it's very tiring. Very, very tiring. I've had my say. That's all I'm going to say on the subject. That's all for now. Hope to see you again next time.